Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this beautiful Monday night. There's a lot of stuff going on. You got the Tennessee Vols in the middle of their efforts to make a College World Series win complete. We're keeping an eye on that for you tonight. Stanley Cup Game 7 is about to begin as well. So we are going to talk about the DeAndre Hopkins call-out situation. That sounds a little more nefarious or not the way that I intended to, I guess, because he's not calling out people with the Titans. He's calling out NFL executives who had an opportunity to sign him. And there is going to be an interesting conversation here, I think, about the idea of bringing DeAndre Hopkins back beyond his expiring contract in 2024. We'll talk about 2024 expectations for D-Hop, and we'll get to Bert at the end of the show with a little bit of In Case You Missed It. But first, we need you all to share this broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Wherever you are hanging out, jump in on the comment section and share this show. If you're on Twitter, retweet it in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share not a public. That is in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or Twitch, please subscribe to the channel, like the video while you're there, and we would be grateful for you that way. Let's go ahead and get it started and talk about D-Hop laying into some NFL execs that passed him over when he had the opportunity, or when rather they had the opportunity to sign him. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford. The South's most trusted Ford dealer goes above and beyond. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. TrueMath Fitness, your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Go to truemathfitness.com for your first workout free. And the aforementioned Zen Sports, up to $100 on your no danger first wager. Zensports.com is how you get in on all the action with that promo code ATOZTN. So DeAndre Hopkins called out NFL executives for last offseason, saying basically that he couldn't play at the level that he has been his entire career, which is not a completely unfair characterization, because there are still some areas that DeAndre Hopkins, as time does to us all, he's not as athletic as he was 5 years ago or as quick as he was 5 years ago, or whatever the case may be, pre-injuries, pre-PED suspensions, just wear and tear of the NFL. But nobody should have ever gotten out there and said that DeAndre Hopkins can't play anymore. And certainly Hop is somebody who keeps the receipts. So he goes on social media last Thursday and responded to a highlight video of himself saying, "Remember the articles from so-called top executives saying I can't play anymore?" with the laughing face emojis. And he follows that up with "In Ran We Trust." So if you remember, there was an article that came out from Albert Breer during the 2023 free agency period, so before last season. And at the time, Arizona getting ready to release D-Hop, legitimate questions about how much, about basically his ceiling as a player after 8 games missed in 2022, 6 of which were because of the NFL's performance-enhancing drug policy. And one team executive said to Albert Breer in that article of Hopkins at the time, he had, quote, "not much left and can't run anymore." Hopkins' game has never been predicated on top-end speed. He's not a burner. He never has been. And that there are NFL executives out there that are citing DeAndre Hopkins can't run anymore, like he's some kind of, like he's missing a limb or something like that, is one of the dumbest and one of the most resoundingly dumb comments I've ever heard. Because you watched Hopkins even coming back from the PED suspension and understood, maybe he's not the greatest wide receiver in the NFL, because there are a lot of great wide receivers in the NFL, but he's still no lower on the list than top 15. DeAndre Hopkins is a high-level player. There was another NFL exec quoted in that article from Breer saying, "Still great hands. He's not going to separate, not much of a deep threat, but very strong, makes contested catches as well as anybody in the NFL, does not love to practice, I can't imagine that will get any better. And to his credit, he was available at practices. He's been around for the entire offseason program. It is he's one of the more, I don't want to say complicated figures in the NFL, but he's definitely got some layers to him that regularly feel like they are either misunderstood or misconstrued or just, taken out of context. And I enjoy that DeAndre Hopkins is quick to correct people on the amount of respect that they need to pay to him for what he has been able to do in his career and what he continues to be able to do. Because I don't have lowered expectations for DeAndre Hopkins in 2024, and I don't think Titans fans do either. So we'll start with your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Fair or foul, DeAndre Hopkins deserves a contract extension before the start of the season. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can interact. We would be happy to have your participation there. Fair or foul to the idea that DeAndre Hopkins deserves a contract extension before 2024 gets underway, the season gets underway. I mean to say, your Two Rivers Ford take is presented by Two Rivers Ford, quality American-made Ford vehicles, and award-winning customer service that cannot be matched. Nobody goes above and beyond in the car buying experience like Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So Hopkins, 2 years, $54 million was what the extension that he signed for in Arizona. With the Titans, he signed a 2-year, $26 million deal for an average of $13 a year. Now, that looks like a steal based on the Justin Jefferson contract that just came out, where DeAndre Hopkins producing a 1,000-yard season, 7 touchdown receptions on the year, being a lone bright spot in a really, really poor offense alongside Derrick Henry. So I can't say a lone bright spot. And Will Levis obviously had some brightness to him. He elevated Hopkins and Henry and everybody. As bad as that collective team was, he did elevate the parts and pieces. So he signed the 2-year, $26 million deal. It runs through this upcoming season. And he finished with, like I said, 75 catches, 1,057 yards, 7 touchdowns in that first season. That's the 7th time he's been over 1,000 yards in his career. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler, as you know, 3-time All-Pro, NFL best 13 touchdown catches way back in 2017. And he's 32 years old as of very recently, this month, I believe, D-Hop turned 32 years old. So there is some realism to this. And professional athletes should never and can't ever, I think that's the appropriate grammar, cannot ever doubt themselves or their abilities. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to do the things that they're able to do. They are truly spectacular in different ways, right? There's all manner of human beings that are spectacular for different reasons. But it's fair to expect that at some point, when your athleticism ceases to be as spectacular, that your skill set would start to fade. Now, nobody is denying that DeAndre Hopkins is not still one of the best athletes out on the field at any given point. This was a 2-sport athlete in college. This is one of the most impressive wide receivers that we've ever seen in the National Football League. But time comes for us all to an extent. And for Hopkins, it's just going to age better as a professional football player. He was available last year, appeared in all 17 games. He practiced regularly, so disputing those notions, part of those notions in the Breer article. And he seemed to do a lot of it out of, I don't want to say spite. I don't know what motivates DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm not gonna try and get into the guy's head because, like I said, I wouldn't pretend to know him. 1, 2, I've only had limited exposure to him in an NFL locker room, and 3, frankly, I could have done a better job last year. Just generally, not just talking to him, but talking to other guys about what makes them tick. And that's something that I think I need to dial in on a little more this year. But with Hopkins in particular, I'm not going to be the person that tries to dive into that dude's head. All I know is whatever it is that motivates him continues to motivate him and continues to allow him, beyond just his skill set, his physical gifts, and however they might age, his motivation cannot be questioned because he is consistently about ball. And you can tell down in, down out, snap in, snap out, even on the practice field when we're out there. He's passionate. You talk about, having a poor red zone practice one day and kicking pylons. Not that outwardly expressing your emotion that way means that you care that much more than the next guy, but there is, you don't have to do that at 32 years old when you've been in the NFL for over a decade. You don't have to still care that much. And Hopkins clearly does. So I think there's a couple of different elements to this that I find interesting, but there's no question when you watch him. For example, the highlight that he quote tweeted, Bert put in here, and it's from the Miami Dolphins game as a part of the comeback on the Monday night that they did, that they completed the biggest upset in the NFL last year by point spread last season. So this is a DeAndre Hopkins play where you can clearly tell that maybe he's not the fastest or the strongest or the wide receiver that jumps the highest anymore at this point in his career, but he's still a very, very high-level player.
Guarded by Ramsey off to the far side. Levis steps up, launches that direction for Hopkins, and an amazing catch is made at the 10-yard line. DeAndre Hopkins.
He understands leverage. He understands himself. He understands his body and his physical ability to start, stop, change direction, his route craft. All of it's been refined over time, and he's still athletic, plenty athletic enough to get the job done, as you can tell. Hopkins, for me, fair, 100% fair. And I'll dive into, I guess I've just explained why. But yes, DeAndre Hopkins getting a contract extension in Tennessee would be absolutely fair to me before the 2024 season. I think that Hop has at least one this upcoming season, if not two more high-level seasons to him. Doesn't have to be 1,000 yards, though. I know he has his own personal standard, as we all have our own personal standard that we work to achieve. But in the case of DeAndre Hopkins, I think he can really, really help the Titans or another football team for as long as he wants to continue to play this way. A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented by True Mav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMavFitness.com. Your first workout is free. True Mav and their staff. Worth Campbell, the owner and personal trainer, the head of personal training at True Mav Fitness, has an awesome environment where they never recycle or repeat any workouts. True Mav is always it's fun, it's inviting, it's a great community, and it's the best place to get a sweat in. Go to TrueMavFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Okay, so looking at DeAndre Hopkins, what are your season expectations for him? We're going to keep this pretty tight because, like I said, I want to let you guys get back to the baseball and the hockey that are both going on right now. My season expectations for DeAndre Hopkins, I've gone back and forth on this a couple of times because Nate Washington, the former Titans wide receiver, former Steelers wide receiver, Nate had a couple of other stops afterwards as well, but primarily Titans and Pittsburgh. Nate Washington came on the show a couple of months ago and talked about that he expects DeAndre Hopkins to have a better season than he did in 2023 because of Calvin Ridley's presence. And that was prior, I want to say, to Tyler Boyd's signing, which is going to be a very important piece to this problem-solving unit that the Titans offense is now capable of being. They have a variety of different players that bring a variety of different skill sets to the table and can beat you in any number of ways. So when I think about DeAndre Hopkins' season expectations, I'll kind of give you a glimpse of what I'm thinking right after I remind you that the Primetime program is presented by Zen Sports. Go to the Zen Sports app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN, get up to $100 on your no danger first wager. Too late to bet on the hockey, but we still have baseball going on in full swing. Go to zensports.com, promo code ATOZTN, or download the app today. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports, where also you can get your VIP play in for consideration. Okay, so season expectations for DeAndre Hopkins. Like I said, he had a really good season on a really bad football team. Over 1,000 yards, 75 catches, 7 touchdowns on the year. Can he be better in 2024 with the additions that they've made? Well, statistically, it would be tough, honestly, but he is somebody who's had 7 1,000-yard seasons in his career, would probably be capable of doing it again in the right setting. The other thing is how many mouths there are in this offense to feed, where Hopkins was consistently available week in, week out, played in every game that the Titans had. And so you're going to, just accumulate those numbers by playing more football games than the rest of the wide receiver core, whether it's Burks, whether it's NWI, Kyle Phillips or whomever else you might think of. The wide receivers are interesting for a great many reasons because, Treylon Burks is still a factor here. Calvin Ridley is obviously a factor here. Tyler Boyd is obviously a factor here. I don't know who I expect to lead the Titans in receiving because it was Hopkins 1, Chig 2 last year, and Chig had a pretty down year for 3/4 of it before he figured it out, or at least things started to click a little better for him in the back stretch of that season. But if Hopkins ends up second or third in receiving on this team, nobody would be shocked, I don't think, based on how different it is. And you also have the running backs to account for as well. So I would say that 1,000-yard season, that to set the over-under, well, let's set the over-under at 900. I'd go over 900 yards for DeAndre Hopkins in 2024. I think this offense is going to move the ball through the air considerably more. And again, I think he is motivated to continue to prove that he can do this at a high level and to prove the Titans right, to his credit. So I'd say over 900 yards. I don't know that I would go 1,000, but I'd go 900 yards. I'd say if the over-under on touchdown receptions was 5, I would probably, again, we're assuming that everybody's healthy, I would be inclined to bet over 5 on DeAndre Hopkins' touchdown passes because I'm curious to see if they move him around at all. I know that Boyd is going to be almost exclusively the slot because that's what he's been in his entire career, but I'm genuinely curious to see how Hopkins, Ridley, and Boyd are deployed, even though I think it's basically going to look like what they ran in Cincinnati. And we've heard as much from both the coaches and the players to an extent. And then catches, I'm going to go under 70 catches. Over under 70. I'm going to go under 70 catches on DeAndre Hopkins in 2024 because, like I said, I think he's still capable of making big plays. I think he's still capable of scoring at a high level, but there are more players that are going to be catching passes in this offense. And I think, in an ideal world, it would be a little bit more evenly dispersed. So those all seem like achievable numbers for DeAndre Hopkins, and it's not a statistically better season than he had last year, but still, if your second or third wide receiver, however you stack these wide receivers, career-wise, Hopkins is obviously number one, but right now, I think Ridley is probably going to make a pretty good case. We'll find out in training camp and once the season begins. But all of it is working towards the effort of making life easier on DeAndre Hopkins, on Calvin Ridley, on Tajay Spears, on everybody, because they have many more options with which to work. So those are my season expectations for DeAndre Hopkins. All right, we'll bring in Bert. We'll do In Case You Missed It right after I remind you that the Primetime program is presented by the wonderful people at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Don't sell without the intel that you can only get with the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. That's GaryAshton.com. All right, Bert. Hello. It doesn't work if you can hear how dry your mouth is when you open it. Perhaps your tongue clicking on your faces.
Shut the hell up.
Shut the hell up. You try and pull this nonsense on me. Your disgusting mouth sounds are evident through the microphone, even though you're not being audible.
Shut up.
Yes. Hello.
What's going on? The Summer Olympics are coming up. I don't know if you've paid any attention to this, but all kind of new events have been added to the Olympics. There's a breakdancing classification, and we've had talks about flag football. So
breakdancing.
Breakdancing. You're going to have to watch this year. It fits in that category of like curling for me, where it is interesting enough for me to give a shit about it, but not interesting enough for me to know the rules or how the hell they score this.
That I don't care about. I'm just along for the ride.
Right. I just want to watch grown men go like their life depends on it, like professional janitorial servicemen. But another thing, the other event that's going to be at the Olympics that I'm most excited to see is swimming in shit.
In Paris is happening tomorrow, and this is what the Seine looks like today. The government has spent over €1 billion trying to clean the Seine before the Paris Summer Olympics that start in 1 month, and it's not working. So Parisians have set up a website telling everyone to go poop in the Seine tomorrow on June 23rd, which is when President Emmanuel Macron and Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo both said they'd go swim to prove it's clean. The website even has a calculator so that people who live far from Paris can know when they need to poop in the river for it to flow down to Paris at noon tomorrow. But even today, without the poop, the Seine looks awful. It's even more green in person, and I saw people dumping garbage into it. Apparently, they've done multiple tests, and the level of bacteria in the Seine is 3 times higher than other open water swimming events allow. However, the Olympic Committee says there's no reason to doubt the swimming events for the Olympics won't take place in the Seine this summer, and they're confident the swimmers will be able to use it. So, I don't know. Would you swim in it?
Would you swim in it? Hell no! It's full of shit! It's disgusting! What are we doing?
Okay. I made this joke with you earlier where I talked about the Brazilian Olympics and them swimming in waters that were infected with like Zika virus and stuff like that caused birth defects for some of the Olympians. And there was a whole issue there. Every year, the Olympics seem like a bit of a disaster. Every year we find out just how screwed up these places in our world that are frantically bidding for these events actually are, and they make desperate cleanup attempts to cover up all the bullshit that they've been doing wrong in their respective cities for years upon years upon years, like just clean river water running through Paris, where of course Parisians are just ashing their cigarettes in it and now planning a poop protest. The fact that they are trying to time at what point the fecal material flows downstream to where the president of the country and the mayor of Paris are swimming in it is wild. By the way, don't you have an update regarding that? Aren't they not swimming in the river as of yesterday? Did they not do it?
What kind of journalist would I be if I didn't have an update for you? So, as you said, they were supposed to swim in the river yesterday,
Yeah.
But President Emmanuel Macron and Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo said that they would not swim in the river as previously announced, citing, quote, political reasons, but that the swim would happen eventually.
Yeah.
So they're never going to swim in that water. It's kind of like that town meeting when everybody was like, the water's fine. Like this town, its water had been messed up from fracking. Like they've been, if you're not familiar, drilling underground, and it messed up the water sources where they sediments and whatnot ended up in the water table. So their water was disgusting. They go to this town meeting, and the people in charge are saying, yeah, the water's fine. You guys should drink it. So a farmer brings a jug and he pours it into a glass so it's visible. And he said, okay, you said you would drink this, so drink this. This is exactly the same thing. You said it's okay to swim in this, so swim in this. And by the way, checking my watch, you should have about 450,000 floaters coming down this thing right now. And I can't imagine the French eat a lot of corn, but I think that the river would be disgusting. You couldn't pay me. A gold medal would not be enough to swim in the Seine. I think we're going to call it the Chart River, or Les Chartes. How do you say river in French? How do you?
That's your homework assignment. You'll bring it back next Monday when we do, in case you missed it.
Hold on, I can just look it up right now. We're professionals. French word for river. Rivière. So it would be Les Chartes Rivière.
I don't think that's right.
It's like Riviera, but Rivière. You have to say the R like they say it. Rivière. Can you do the Rivière? You're a world traveler. Say some French shit.
I also took 4 years of French and don't remember how to say hello in French. So,
bonjour.
Very good. All right, that's going to do it for, in case you missed it, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime program. Radio show tomorrow. Teresa Walker's going to be in studio. We'll talk about whether or not the Vols are going to be able to pull this off against Texas A&M in a national championship, and we will have a Stanley Cup champion crown. So it'll be a jam-packed, loaded radio show from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. We will see you guys then.